Welcome to the podcast where we speak truth, illuminate power, and fully embody who the fuck we are. This is the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. We are all about spiritual evolution, spiritual growth, talking about the things that may be controversial, even some triggering concepts, but we are all about expansion. Come on in and join us as we reclaim and recenter ourselves in the power of who we really are. We are the Light Warriors, and welcome to the revolution. Well, welcome back, everybody, to episode 129 of the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. And I've got a beautiful guest here today who's an archangel incarnated, which is actually really kind of fun. So as you guys know, I speak into all different kinds of things. We talk spiritual stuff. We talk all the dimensional stuff happening in the world. We go everywhere. And this woman's pathway is really to help remove and heal generational trauma that's keeping our emotions regressed. She's an author of some children's books. She has a TV show connected to children. And there's a movement happening to help these kids that are incarnated into the earth not to take on their parents' stuff, and to help the parents actually heal through, which is who you are, removing that generational trauma and really allowing ourselves to be able to live in the life that we know is true for us without all the shit that we've accumulated over the years inside of our space. So let me give you her bio so you can get a feel for what you're about to move yourself into. So Angela Legh is a transformational storyteller known for her children's fantasy book series, the Bella Santini Chronicles, and as the writer, director, and producer of the television show Children's Lives Matter. Angela's journey through 5 decades of abuse, bullying, and belittlement shaped her understanding of emotional resilience and gave her powerful insights into managing emotions, a wisdom she now shares with audiences young and old. Featured in USA Today and as a syndicated columnist for the Los Angeles Tribune, Angela's work has impacted countless lives, providing tools for emotional growth and inspiring strength through her writing and media presence. When she's not crafting magical tales or thought-provoking articles, Angela recharges with her supportive husband, exploring the breathtaking landscapes of Taos, New Mexico, always inspired to bring a touch of its beauty and serenity into her work. And we dive in right away into fur animals. We dive into soul contracts in this episode. We speak into the mechanisms of what's transpiring in the world and some tools and assets that you can take to be able to start to move some of this information into you and bring it out into the world. And this was a powerful conversation. I love the dynamics of where we're moving through in this podcast, and just so grateful that I get to introduce Angela to you today. So no further ado, episode 129, the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. Well, I am so excited to be chatting today with Angela because I just know that there's going to be some stuff coming up in connection with, I don't even know, it's going to be really fun, but I can feel it in my energy field about what we're about to create together. And, and with Tony as well, because Tony is my cat. So I didn't introduce you before we hit record to her, but she shows up every so often and you'll see her tail probably inside of here if you guys are watching the video.
I have a cat named Merlin who just dropped into my life in July. And
I love that.
Yeah, he's very activating.
I work a lot with Merlin's energy. Whenever I have to do a lot of clearing work, him and his team, I call them like the alchemy team, and the wizards of alchemy is what I call them, drop in a lot. Yeah, I work a lot with his energy. So that's really fun. I love that. Yeah. I love that. So cool. She named herself when I met her. So I got her 14 years ago. And when I met her, she came up to me and she was like, I'm yours. You're taking me home. And so I did, but I asked her the question. I'm like, what do you want your name to be? And I just kept hearing Tony. And here we are 14 years later. So she's like on my microphone and in my earphones right now. And she's like chewing on my earphone. It's like she's a kitten, like she literally is so funny. Oh my gosh. What a way to start the podcast. This is hilarious. A lot of my listeners know Tony. She's channeled messages before in some of my solo episodes. So yeah, she's definitely a healer. But we are here to talk today about kids and children and fur babies as well, apparently, right?
Well, there's soul family, and some of the animals that come into our life are from past life soul family. And it's a way to shift the relationship that, maybe in the past life, the relationship had some 3D dense, excuse me, dense energy to it. So
Oh, for sure.
you can shift that and have a beautiful relationship with that fur baby.
Yeah. Well, and Tony has been in my world a long time. So we've done this multiple times. When I had an animal communicator tap into her once, she was like, when our energies collide, mommy, it's like stardust. And I was
Oh,
like,
beautiful.
isn't that this the
I have
sweetest thing
chills.
ever? Yeah, she's precious for sure. She literally has a throne on my desk and she sits up here all the time. Whenever I do work, when I do clearing work, when I do activation work, she's always around participating. Now she's on my lap though. So as we record this podcast. So funny. So Angela, let's chat a little bit about I know some of the work you're doing in the world is related to children and
Mhm.
helping break generational trauma. You also are a writer. You have a plethora of like diversity, we'll say, in the world, but you really are connected into this children landscape. Is that correct to say?
That's very much correct to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Tell
My
me about the work. Yeah, go for it.
Well, my soul is an archangel.
Yeah.
And I am um, completing a soul mission, which is to break the cycle of generational trauma associated with repressed emotions.
Mm.
And, one person can only do so much in the world,
Yeah.
but still, it's like, yes, this is a huge mission, but one person by the next person, it's like I touch
Mhm.
one person and then the next person, and eventually it will grow into something where, I the lessons that are embedded and the angelic energies embedded in the books that I write for kids 8 to 12,
Yeah.
they will grow up not being emotionally triggered because they'll know how to deal with their emotions, and they will grow up not accepting less than what they deserve
Mm.
because they'll have that sense of self-value. And you know people people don't understand the repercussions of repressed emotions.
Mhm.
They hear the word and they think, oh, someone else does that, I don't.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think it's important because I just kept hearing what is repressed emotions. So let's
Mhm.
talk about what is that? Because I
Do
feel like
that.
some people may know but may not know. And like there's a really big understanding of this. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so we all learned how to process emotions from our parents, who
Right.
learned it from their parents.
Hmm.
The way that our parents, more or less, unless you had, a studied psychologist as a parent,
Yeah.
you probably learned a coping behavior that is repression.
Mm.
So if you grab a beer or a glass of wine because you're upset,
Yeah.
that is avoiding your emotions. It's emotional repression.
Right.
If you go shopping because you're mad and you want to feel better,
Yeah.
that's emotional repression. If you go gambling, if you do self harming, you're cutting to hurt because you don't know how to deal with the pain that you're experiencing emotionally.
Yeah.
And so, what we need to do is give our kids tools to face emotions.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
now
well, and
I
most of us, like if we look at our life, most of us as adults have never had to deal with this. Like we've just continued on with our
continued
pathway,
that
thinking
pattern.
it's normal to feel certain things and not have to deal with stuff like that. And we're noticing in the collective energies right now, especially those of you guys that are listening to this podcast, because I already know vibrational alignment inside of like what my listeners are, we're uncovering layers and layers of stuff in our fields whether it's ancestrally driven or our own inner child work or all of this. It's a very potent thing right now.
It is a very potent thing.
Yeah.
And if you're doing inner child work, my books, the Bella
Yeah.
Santini Chronicles, can help you tap into that part of your inner child that is happy, free, and enjoying life.
Mm.
And it's you'll learn how to process emotions in positive ways, and you will also be able to tap into that energy of the Christed child, the one, that part of you that is connected to source and is in freedom and happiness.
Yes. And I feel like, especially a lot of the work that I'm doing, one of my key frequencies in my business is liberation. So, how
Mhm.
do we liberate our own selves to be all that we are? And it's part of the shadow work, part of this generational work, it's part inner child work. I do a lot of that work with clients as well. So, I get and understand the dynamics of this, but we need to do the work in order to move through into this liberation.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
after I wrote my books, I read a book by Dr. Alice Miller, who did longitudinal studies of children who had childhood trauma.
Hmm.
And she studied them over the course of maybe 50 years.
Right.
Her conclusion is that repressed emotions, because let me back up a little.
Yeah.
When you are being abused as a child, you don't have the ability to say, that doesn't feel good. I don't like that. Stop doing that to me.
Right.
You have to swallow it. You have to suck it up. And
Hide everything. Yeah.
that is repressed emotions. So repressed emotions either go inward and attack your body. So the energy settles into your cells and it stays there because you have not allowed the emotion to flow.
Mm.
And that's how disease gets started.
Right. Yeah.
Or they attack outward. So we all know people who have been easily offended and will attack when they are emotionally triggered.
Yeah.
That is the result of repressed emotions. So if we give our kids tools for dealing with even the most painful emotion, then they don't end up being the kind of kid who picks up a gun and shoots a school
Right.
because they know how to deal with their emotions.
Yeah. And we've at least probably before 2020, we can look at the world that everybody was so busy doing things. Like parents are just trying to get by, they're working as hard as they can. And it's just like this cycle that kept moving through the world. And then we had this event that transpired worldwide where everyone had to hit pause. And then we started to see some of the dynamics of our life in the disconnections, in where the work needs to happen, where you're like, I don't know if I can be with my husband in the same room for 24 hours, and all these things started to come up in the space of this. And I feel like some parents noticed more things about their kids. However, we're now back in this space, if you're in North America at least, where it's like people are running around again and not paying attention. Would you say that that's true?
I would say that's very true. The
Yeah.
the COVID event,
Yeah.
shall we say,
Yeah.
caused us all to literally go inside.
Yeah.
And that was a time for us to reflect on our life. And, I think the energetic outcome of COVID was to reflect
Mm,
and figure out what you want.
I agree.
So the great resignation started and
Yeah.
people started choosing to step into things that were really aligned with their soul and their heart. Um, as far as kids, COVID was, man, what a game changer. It was, so when you think about the kids raised in generational trauma, those who have parents who are enacting they're projecting their internal turmoil onto the kids.
Yeah.
Those kids no longer had the escape of
Right.
going to school. So they're stuck with that.
Yeah.
And that weighed on me heavily.
I bet it did. Yeah. Well, you're super connected to them, so you could feel that. Like, I can only imagine what that felt like.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, schools, they're not the ideal place for kids anyway.
Uh-huh.
They're really stuck in the whole
Yep.
factory worker building kind of
Yeah.
environment. And the education system needs to shift more into imagination building and
Mhm.
curiosity building,
Yeah.
and really getting kids to focus on what they want to study, because that allows their soul to express through them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-discovery. I always said, and I guess this is coming up faster than I can imagine, but I said in my 50s I would create, gifted kids schools, and they would learn about spirituality and their gifts in the world. And, it'd be like a Hogwarts where they would practice, their clairsentient and their clairvoyancy and,
Right.
seeing
And give
spirits
them
and yeah.
tools,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was a clairsentient child. I did not know, first off, that I was feeling everybody else's stuff around me.
Yeah. You could swear on this
And
podcast. It's okay.
I am an author of children's books, so I try
Yeah, so
not to.
there you go. I swear all the time. Like
But
my
anyway,
my
yeah.
girlfriend's 4-year-old son says to me one day, Auntie Colleen, or he calls me Zia because he's Italian. Zia Colleen, you just swore. I was like, look, Zia Colleen is over the age of 18 and she can say whatever she wants in her self-expression. That's what I say to him all the time. I know. Anyways, back to you. But yeah,
So
so we're talking about my Hogwarts school. Like,
the I saw Rebecca Campbell do a Instagram live thing, and she was talking about giving kids a tool for dealing with these energies, and
right.
she talked about calling on you have your child call on the angels and ask the angels to put them in a bubble,
Hmm.
because there's all these energies and children are very sensitive to
Oh, they
energy.
are. Yeah.
So they're feeling all this stuff. Just ask the angels to put them in a bubble, and they can do it themselves. They don't, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the parent asking. So that's a really good tool that, could be taught in your Hogwarts school.
Yeah. It's definitely there's a lot of like I actually feel the kids have brought some of their parents to me, intuitively
Oh,
have
yes,
dropped them into my field for the work, because if I can help the parents shift, then it changes the game for the kids, right? So,
it does.
and yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Which is why all of my posts on Instagram, social media are all to the parents,
right.
telling them how they can connect with their kids, how to listen to their kids in a way that makes the kid feel heard, how to help their child deal with anxiety, all of these things that I remember as a parent I could have used.
Right. Well, we go through this to teach it, right? You go through certain aspects to be able to authentically bring this into the world. And
Yeah,
obviously, you're aligned in the mission that you're meant to serve the world within in this landscape and space, which is
yeah.
really awesome.
Mm.
Really awesome. Well, and everybody's being called up into different levels of their energy. So your mission is in a category of like 8 to 12 to empower that space, but it's also about how do you pull back these layers within these parental systems and these people and in other infrastructures to be able to start to make change at deeper levels in all of it. So before someone even has a baby, you know?
Yeah. And it's funny because my gene keys say that the playful child, the family connections, all of these lines within my chart really speak to what I do.
Of course. We
Yeah.
chose these bodies in this exact moment of time to drop into the world. So it's almost like too, it's interesting. And I was watching something the other day of a woman getting a C-section and how she forced labor early. And she, whatever, is a whole other thing. But I was like, I wonder if that baby knew that that would transpire in the world when it chose the mother that way. Like if it was already, and I'm sure they probably already knew, but it's like when we birth into the world, we choose a certain moment to come into the world because that moment dictates some of the aspects of the life that we're meant to live.
Absolutely. And I was born in San Francisco
Yeah.
in 1964
Hmm.
and watched the Summer of Love in Golden Gate Park, which was right across the street from the house that I lived in.
That
So
is so
I
funny.
was here to absorb that love, and it's not the relationship love energy, but just the general unity love of we are one.
Mm,
We support each other, we work in collaboration. And
yeah.
through that kind of interactions, we amplify the work that we do. So you're inviting me onto your podcast amplifies not only your work but mine at the
Hmm.
same time. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. This was an intuitive hit. So, I can't even remember when I started it. It was back in 2020, I believe. No, no, that's not true. 2022. I was like, when did this come to life? And literally it was like, we need you to get your podcast out. I was like, podcast? I'm like, when am I doing a podcast? And they're like, oh, by the end of the month, you need to have it out. This was in February of 2022. And I was like, what? Like that's like in 3 weeks. And like, what do we? And they're like, it's okay, you got it covered. And then a podcast producer jumped into my space at the time, who no longer is aligned in the podcast energy. But at the time, it served a purpose that I could step up and step in and launch it forward and get it out into the world. And this came in as a hit. And then there was a time probably about a couple months ago where I was like, okay, I think I'm complete. And Spirit's like, no, because I got a message was like from a woman. She's like, your podcast is my go-to. I listen to it every week. And I was like, well, apparently I'm still supposed to be doing this,
You're
and
saying, yeah.
yeah. And then I put the call out to Threads and that's how we got connected because I was like, well, I'll bring on some more guests then if that's what we're going to do. And let's move into the next wave of energy. And it's been amazing. The people that have been coming on, just so next level energetics. It's really fun to watch how the messaging is coming through now and just what was meant to be served in this next phase of the podcast evolution. And I'm just
And
following
it's
the call.
really,
Yeah.
for me, it's really interesting to see these soul alignments that are coming in and how I can be instantly connected to someone who I've never met before
Yeah.
because they're part of my soul family.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
and we're all here to amplify, to move, accelerate, whatever the word is that your mission is, to be a catalyst, to be, an
exactly.
activator, whatever that is, right? And we're all coming out of the woodwork.
Exactly. I will amplify your mission by sharing, and you're amplifying mine by allowing me on. So
Mhm.
it is a beautiful collaborative energy that we're in right now.
Yeah, yeah, we are. It's really great. I'd love to go, and I know that you probably have resources for parents in connection with some of this work. And you mentioned your Instagram channel or your Instagram profile, I guess. And we'll obviously have the links in the show notes that people can go. And the content is all veered towards some of the stuff the children are going through. But what are some key
Mhm.
tips? Like, so we have parents listening. Obviously, I don't think I have any kids that listen to this podcast, but you never know. So this is more veered towards the parents anyways. But if they're seeing some of this transpire, or they know that, you know, their stuff that they never dealt with is being embedded in their children right now, and they're watching it and they're like, I don't know how to move this through. What is some words of wisdom? Like, what can they take from your knowledge to be able to help serve their children?
So I would say the world is a mirror to show you the energy you must work on.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are triggered by the words or behavior of another person, instead of pointing the finger in blame and saying, they did that to me, look at yourself and say, when was, I know I felt this way before. When was the first time I felt this way?
Mm-hmm.
You can then go into the timeline and, people think that you need to pay someone to help you through this. And there is value in finding someone who knows how to do that and help you through it. But we are all souls and we can all do it for ourselves. It's
Mm-hmm.
just accepting that I can do it for me. So, what I recommend, for instance, um, my former husband I was very triggered by his behavior. And if I had the tools then, I would have realized that it was a match for the behavior of my father, who was an alcoholic and very abusive. And so for me to shift that energy, I picture myself as a 3-year-old child being screamed at by a drunken father.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as an adult, I can see he is projecting his internal turmoil onto me. I'm an innocent child in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I can step into that timeline, pick up the child me,
Mm-hmm.
and tell her the truth of the situation because we do not see the world as it is, we see it as we are.
Right.
When we apply that to the people who criticized, yelled at us, caused us emotional pain, we understand that they did not see the world as it is, they saw it as they were.
They were. Yeah.
So that is only my father projecting onto an innocent child.
Right.
Explaining that to the child, you didn't do anything wrong, you're fine, don't listen to him. He's not telling truth, because telling that part of our child that the adult the child sees the adult as the knowing authority.
Right. Yeah.
and that starts shifting the energy right away. It just like changes the whole perception of what happened.
Yeah.
And then I have a deceptively uh, simple tool
Yeah.
that people, in the past, people have kind of dismissed it because they don't understand the power of this tool. So this is what I call focused attention.
Mm-hmm.
When we are triggered by the behavior or words of someone, it brings up a feeling within us. We start putting our focus of attention on the feeling instead of on what happened.
Mm.
And this is key because when we disconnect our mind from the circumstance and focus only on the feeling starts flowing.
Right.
So with your kids, you can tell them, describe that feeling. Is it a big ball of energy? Is it a sharp stab? Is it, black? Is it purple? How does it feel in you? Describe the feel,
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
So you're acknowledging the feeling by naming it,
Mm-hmm.
and give yourself permission to feel it.
Yeah.
When you do those 3 steps, the feeling will flow within about 2 minutes. And only when your mind returns to the circumstance will the feeling return.
Right.
And so you do it again.
Yeah.
And of late, I've been getting a lot of feedback on that process. One of the podcasters I spoke with, his best friend had committed suicide the day before the podcast.
Mm.
And he didn't tell me. I didn't detect that energy. But I could tell he was off a little bit.
Yeah.
I I gave that tool in our conversation. A few weeks later, I was on his summit.
Mm.
And when he came on to interview me, he told that story. And he
Yeah.
said, she gave me the tool and I was able to get through that day. I didn't know how I was going to, but with her tool, I was able to get through the day.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that we said this, like we think it has to be this big grandiose thing. But if we
Yeah.
can pull back into simplicity and actually just get into what is necessary, which is this tool, this asset, the feeling, all the things, we then can actually understand it more. And most of us are running away from it. We
Yes.
are avoiding it. We don't want to deal with it, all this stuff.
Emotional repression.
Yeah.
We're back there. Yeah,
Yeah. It's a cycle. It really is a cycle.
it
And
is. And,
yeah.
there's like three main ways people repress emotions: numbing behavior, which is the alcohol, the drugs, the shopping, the gambling, doing something so I don't feel like this. Could
Yeah.
even be workaholic.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's suppression. When you had parents who said, we don't show our feelings, or we don't, we're we don't allow people to know how we feel.
Hmm.
That's simple suppression. It's just like, I'm going to deny that I'm having this feeling.
Right. Yeah.
And then there is escape. So escaping and numbing are very close, but escape can be really benign, like I'm going to binge watch TV, or I'm going to read this book because I don't want to feel what I'm feeling. And it's really
Mm.
about, what is the motivation
Right.
behind what you're choosing to do? Because if it's associated with not feeling, that means you're repressing.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it makes so much sense. And if we actually looked at our lives and the way we're showing up and the things that we're moving through right now, it's part of this. This is part of it. We're
Very much.
also seeing like, we talk about inner child work, but we're also seeing this from past lives coming
Mm-hmm.
forward now. So everything's obviously working in tandem. So I've spoken about this before about timelines, and none of it's technically in the past. It's all happening at once,
Oh,
everything.
yeah, because time is a spiral.
Yeah, and it's like it's all happening at once, but we call it past life regression because it makes sense to the mind, or I call it exploration, past life exploration. But it's the exact same thing. It's like that cycle's been playing out for all of these lifetimes, let's just say in the linear timeline of these lifetimes. And it's like we go back to these moments to be able to see it, to feel it, to honor it, to move through it. But there's a lot of people out there not wanting to do the work.
Yeah. Well, the society,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah,
and many generations have taught us that feeling is really not allowed.
yeah.
And that is truly the cycle we must break as adults who, you know, all of our souls chose to be born into the families we were born in,
Hmm.
into the situations we experienced, into, you know, what we take on, because that is part of our soul path, our soul mission, our soul's understanding of
Yeah.
the duality of this world.
Hmm.
And so it's like each person who chose to be born in these now moments, oh, my, what souls they are,
Mm-hmm.
because we're all raising the elevation in our own little way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say this all the time about everyone has a piece to the puzzle, right?
Uh-huh.
So everyone's piece is necessary for the overall puzzle. And it doesn't mean that my piece is better than your piece if I'm impacting 10,000 people and you're the one over here impacting small moments of time. All of it is necessary.
All of it is
Yeah.
necessary. And I have called it fractals of a diamond
Mm.
because, it's like the shiny face that I'm on
Yeah.
is it different from the shiny face that you're on. And different people are connected and will be drawn in. It doesn't matter. We're all doing the same work. And
Mm-hmm.
that work is to shift the world out of the density of 3D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And obviously your mission is really tactile in some of the work you do with the books and your writing and that movement within the earth plane. I want to ask you this question. What else are you being called into right now? Like what's the next phases of your evolution, let's say, on the path?
I wish I knew.
Don't we all, right?
Sometimes my soul is very quiet when I
Yeah.
ask questions. Um, I know that something big is on the horizon.
Hmm.
I know that, I have a television show called Children's Lives Matter.
Hmm.
And in that show, we delve into the issues children face to give parents an understanding
Yeah.
of not only what their child is going through, but how they can help their child through that. And we've talked about social media addiction. We did a 4-week on suicide and suicide
Hmm.
prevention. We've done mental health. We've done body image. Oh my God, that
Hmm.
was such a powerful show.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. And if you, as a 10-year-old, was able to learn that everything you see in a magazine, everything you see in a movie, everything you see is altered AI, photoshopped. That's not real people. So quit trying to be that person. You are you and you should be you.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Wow. So it's a movement, obviously, that you're creating in the space of everything.
Mm.
I want to ask you this question because I firmly believe that it's the shadow dynamics of the world that are influencing the suicidal thoughts
Oh, very much.
and
Yeah. And
the
it's the
mental health.
repression
Yeah,
that is bringing it to bear
right.
because, that's the ultimate attack on yourself, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of work in the Akashic Records and I do clearing work in the Akashic Records too. And there's a lot of stuff I'm seeing moving through the collective right now. And I
And it's
obviously,
hard,
oh
you know,
yeah,
when you don't, it's sometimes it's really hard for me. And I have all these tools and I know, who I am. And
yeah,
it's like my heart breaks for those who are asleep who have no idea. On one hand, they don't feel, because the more awake you are, the more sensitive you are to energies.
oh, for sure.
And so the collective unconscious, they don't necessarily feel what we feel, but they're still looking at this world and all the changes, and they don't see the light that is part of it. They
Right.
see the darkness.
Yeah. And it's that veil that we're peeling back in the
Mhm.
world for those that are stepping through. And there's some gurus out there that are like, we're moving all into this new earth and 5D energy. And I'm like, and I believe we are moving through it, but it's within our own selves as we move through
Yes.
it. And mo like I don't know what the number is because I'm like I haven't actually dove into this energetically to find out, but it's like there will be people that will not be on that train, that will continue that soul's mission in that space because that's what they committed to.
That is
So
right.
yeah. So
And one of the, so, I've had a traumatic life,
mhm,
including two fires and almost drowning and, abusive men in my life.
yeah.
And what I learned about soul contracts
Mm,
truly changed how I was able to look at the situation. Because when I first left my former marriage, it was after a wildfire destroyed everything we owned, and I
wow.
reevaluated my life and
Yeah.
made changes. But I was called to write a chapter in a book called that I called On Forgiveness.
Yeah.
So I was doing some internet searches about forgiveness and, started doing Ho'oponopono
Mm,
and did all this work. But I ran across a blog that talked about soul contracts.
mhm.
So when you think about someone who creates trauma in the world, um, you know, most people will just, let's talk about Donald Trump, for instance.
He's doing his soul mission
Doing his soul.
exactly what he's supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
Totally
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
And so when you look at him and you're like, oh, he's horrible, he's misogynist, and he's this and he's that. He is doing those energies to bring up those feelings in you
Yeah.
and everybody else.
Yep.
And that's part of transmuting those energies.
Mhm.
But when you think about someone who is like man's intolerance to man, man's inhumanity to man, and you think about, this person who's caused you a lot of pain, think about being in heaven as a soul, making a contract and agreement with someone, and each soul takes a part in that interaction.
Mhm.
So, in the case of my former husband, um, he used narcissistic tools
Right.
to control and manipulate. And when I think about a soul taking on that level of, I won't say evil, but it's darkness,
Yeah. Yeah.
and agreeing to live a lifetime in that darkness, who can say which soul had a harder job?
We can't, like, we're all like, that's the commitment to the work. It's like,
It's the work.
yeah, there's so much. So through COVID, and I'm Canadian, so I grew up in Canada, the whole Justin Trudeau thing, and people are like, oh my God, I hate him, da 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 da, look what he's doing. And I'm like, guys, he is a mirror and he's doing his soul contract effectively up there. And
Very
yeah,
effectively.
like it is, right? So like imagine choosing that. And I know from a truth perspective of certain aspects of the mechanisms of the world because I used to be a part of the Illuminati. So I had a
Oh, were
lifetime.
you? I was invited. I said no.
Yeah, I was like not in this life, but in another life I was in the Illuminati. So I see through all the veils of everything that's going on in the world because I was part of the elitist plan that created some of this the
That's
detriment.
brought this to bear, and it needed to be brought to bear so that we can move through it.
Of
So,
course. And all
yeah.
of it. So it's like, yeah, no, in this lifetime, I haven't been invited in, you know, like, as far as I know. And if I was not consciously in awareness, you know, like, and
No,
my spirit was probably
literally,
like, yeah,
someone
no.
Instagram messaged me and said, "Hey, we want you to join the Illuminati." And I was like,
Yeah,
that's
no.
not my soul path. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. I have some friends that have been approached by numerous of these groups and like literally like we're stalking him for years and tried to take him out because of his family lineage and stuff too. So it's like it's a real
Hmm.
thing, you know, and some of us don't really recognize because we're just thinking about our 9 to 5 jobs and you know what it
And
is like we got to go to soccer and that's a beautiful thing too, but it's like There's a lot more stuff happening in the collective than we even recognize.
But the thing that the audience can hold on to is that when you go into a dark room, you turn on the light and all of the darkness is dissipated.
Right.
Light always will win.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we look at what's going on in the world and we start to get kind of emotionally involved in that,
Yeah.
just remind yourself, this is part of the path that takes us to the light.
Yeah. And it's necessary. Like I always say all the time, the only way through is through. So
Exactly. And you cannot carry heavy energy with
yeah.
you into the light. You have to
Yeah.
put it down so that you can be light to go into the
Yeah.
light.
Yeah. Doing the work. And I think it's like even more imperative now than ever before because
Oh,
we're seeing it like in the work you're doing, even on the earth, like with the children, it's like they're calling us into the work. They want their parents, their grandparents to be liberated, right?
yes.
Yeah.
The children born since 2012 are all very much old soul star seeds here to seed the planet into the next level. And so it's like I had an Akashic record reading some time back, and the guy who read it for me, now I can read it myself, but
Yeah, of course.
um, he was like, you're opening a portal and directing those starseed children to hold on to who they are
Hmm.
through your books.
Yeah.
And yes, you're right. They are calling us to a higher level. I hope that we can all step up into it.
Yeah. Yeah. If not this lifetime, the next one. You know what
Right.
I mean? I'm like, I
I
know I got people are like, all the imprinting of humanity. And I'm like, guys, I'm living past 100. Like, there's so much work that needs to be done through my soul's mission because I don't incarnate very often. I only incarnate when the soul, like the earth blueprint is off. So,
yeah, and that's very good. But um I so my soul was involved in the Orion Wars and was on the
mm,
gray side of it,
mm,
and then was imprisoned on a planet for a long, long time.
interesting,
And
right? Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting. But I also know that this is my last incarnation on Earth,
Hmm.
and I will not. It's like my soul is outside of karma, is outside of needing to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and yet this human keeps getting lessons.
Welcome to Earth. I was like, you got the
Right.
brochure? Did you get the Earth brochure? I say all the time.
Oh
Welcome
man,
to
I
Earth.
can't tell you how many times my current husband, my Merlin husband,
Yeah.
installed a swing in my backyard for me. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone on that swing and just said, I can't do this world anymore. I need to go back home.
Yeah. They're like, sorry, your mission isn't complete.
No, you're
Abort
getting
mission. No, no, you still got work to do.
yeah.
I was telling people over the weekend when I was doing this waterfall rappelling thing. So
Oh,
I
fun.
was rappelling down waterfalls way harder than I thought it would be. Okay. Like in my mind, it was like, and I was like, what did I sign up for? But I was telling them about skydiving. And when I went skydiving, I was just super calm. And everyone's like, why are you so calm? Everyone's flipping out. They're all like fear. I'm like, guys, I have way too much work to do on this earth. I am not dying today, So like, and just understanding that and knowing that created this sense of peace. Like, I'm just gonna go have an experience. Like, why am I gonna
I
worry
don't
about?
play
Yeah,
in the fear energy
no,
because I know I'm protected.
yeah,
And every single person on earth is protected, whether they know it or not.
yeah, yeah. So true. but it doesn't mean that things don't transpire for us, because they do, because it's part of the learning information and knowledge for
Right.
our growth.
When I first stepped into soul embodiment, I was like, okay, it's all going to be hats and horns now. It's going to be light and love and cheeriness,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be happy all the time. Like, not.
No, sure isn't. Welcome to the imprinting of Earth. Here's some of the triggers that we're going to put into your energetic field, and here's the conditioning as we layer that on, and all the things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, go ahead.
Well, just that there's not only this life, but past life that we're dealing with. We are shifting the energetics across timelines
Mm-hmm.
by doing the work
Yeah.
and learning to face who we are and what we experience, our feelings. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. Loving this conversation, Angela. And yeah, there's so much depth that we move through inside of this. Like the frequency of this is going to be blowing some people's minds. It's going to be really great. I obviously have all your links in the show notes, but I'd love for you just to tell people where can they find you, and yeah, just anything else you feel called to share inside of that space.
Okay. So, first thing I'm called to share is to give yourself grace.
Mm.
This may be the first time you've heard some of this stuff,
Yeah.
and just allow the energetics to sink in. If you become emotionally triggered, try and remember to do the focused attention
Mhm.
and just allow these energies to sink in. The other thing where you can find me, angelalegh.com, and it's
Perfect.
AngelaLegh.com. There's no I in that.
No I, and you'll have a direct link also in the show notes, guys, so you can go there and
Yeah.
just like click on it too. But no, it's been amazing. I am so grateful that I got to connect with an archangel incarnated, and being in the presence of that. I do a lot of work in the 12th dimensional energy, like just in general for
Oh,
clearing.
oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. Not connected specifically to angelic energy, but in general in the 12th dimensional world, I've actually done teachings on it. So I loved when you wrote that in, and I'm like, okay, let's go have some fun and figure that
Yeah,
out together. But
yeah,
we're all on our mission. That's what I want to say
we
there.
are.
Yeah, we're all on our mission. Keep stepping in and doing the work. Have the courage to look deeper into you, because yeah, there's some power there
That
for sure.
there lies freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all want that, to be liberated. And whatever
Yeah,
that means for you, it's different than my liberation potentially, right? So it's like really start to trust that you can be, do, and have everything that you desire, and be aligned and hold the things and have the friends and all the spaces of it all. So yeah,
beautiful.
I love it. Angela, thank you so much for sharing your light today in all the ways. And I'm going to highly encourage you guys, if you have kids or you have nieces and nephews or people in your world that could benefit from her books, to go and pick them up and start to spread that light into the world. And just really grateful for our conversation today. Angela, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a beautiful collection of energies today.
It definitely has. And for all of you guys listening, it's just always so grateful to have you guys here. And like I say all the time, share it with a friend, tag us on social media, spread the word, get the podcast out into the world, because somebody is calling for this information. And maybe you're the one that's going to support them in that. So I
Right?
love you
Maybe
all.
that's
Yeah.
their right.
Sorry,
Just to
say it again.
I just maybe that's, you, the listener's role is to
Mm,
share the information. You don't necessarily have to be the one who is, bringing down the wisdom. Everybody has a role
mhm.
and a mission, and it could be just that you're helping your friend to step out of that victim energy.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, sometimes we think that we're not a part of it, but we're all a part of it in some way,
We
shape, or
are.
form. Yeah. So I love you guys, and we'll see you all in the next episode.